Do you know that the British Empire, at its peak, ruled over vast territories, influencing countless nations and cultures, including those in West Africa? One of the most significant figures in the empire's history was King George VI, a reluctant monarch who rose to the occasion and played a crucial role during World War II. His reign had far-reaching consequences, not just in Britain, but also in the Gold Coast, now modern-day Ghana. King George VI once declared, "I believe from my heart that the cause which binds together my peoples and our gallant and faithful allies is the cause of Christian civilization." But what did this mean for the British colonies? How did his rule affect the people of the Gold Coast? And what legacies did he leave behind? Born Albert Frederick Arthur George Saxe-Coburg-Gotha on December 14, 1895, in Norfolk, England, the future King George VI was never meant to sit on the throne. He was the second son of King George V and Queen Mary, which meant he had an older brother, Prince Edward, who was the direct heir. As a child, he was frail, timid, and constantly under pressure from his strict father. He was naturally left-handed, but his tutors forced him to write with his right hand. He also suffered from a severe stammer, which made public speaking an ordeal. His struggles with his speech were so significant that they later inspired the 2010 movie The King's Speech. Despite his difficulties, Bertie, as his family called him, pushed through. He attended the Royal Naval Academy, though he graduated at the bottom of his class. He later fought in World War I, serving as a midshipman on the HMS Collingwood, even witnessing action during the Battle of Jutland in 1916. After the war, he briefly attended Trinity College, Cambridge, studying history, economics, and civics. In 1920, he became Duke of York, which meant he had to take on more public duties. Around this time, he fell in love with Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, but she initially rejected his marriage proposals twice before finally agreeing. Their union was a happy one, producing 2 daughters, Elizabeth, who later became Queen Elizabeth II, and Margaret. King George VI never wanted to be king. His older brother, King Edward VIII, ascended the throne in January 1936, but caused a constitutional crisis when he insisted on marrying Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. British laws and traditions forbade a king from marrying a twice-divorced woman whose ex-husbands were still alive. As a result, Edward chose love over the crown and abdicated in December 1936. With Edward's sudden departure, Albert had no choice but to step up. On May 12, 1937, he was officially crowned King George VI. His decision to use his father's name, George, was meant to restore stability to the monarchy, which had suffered under Edward's scandal. As tensions rose in Europe, King George VI initially supported Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, who believed he could prevent war with Germany. In 1938, Chamberlain signed the Munich Agreement with Hitler, hoping to secure peace. However, Hitler ignored the agreement and invaded Poland in 1939, forcing Britain into World War II. As king, George VI had to address the British people and declare war on Germany, an incredibly difficult task for a man who struggled with a severe speech impediment. But with the help of his speech therapist, Lionel Logue, he delivered one of the most critical addresses in British history. During the war, he and Queen Elizabeth refused to flee London despite the constant German bombings, the Blitz. They visited bombed-out cities, toured hospitals, and even risked their lives by remaining at Buckingham Palace, which was bombed multiple times. His dedication to his people made him a symbol of strength and resilience. King George VI even visited British troops, in North Africa and Normandy after the D-Day invasion in 1944, further cementing his image as a wartime leader. While Britain was fighting Nazi Germany, the war had significant effects on its colonies, including the Gold Coast, modern Ghana. During this period, shortages of imported goods became severe. Colonial authorities rationed basic commodities, leading to creative survival tactics among the local population. Palm oil was used for lighting instead of kerosene. Locally grown cotton was woven into cloth since imports were scarce. The colonial government banned the production and sale of akpateshi, a local alcoholic drink, while allowing imported alcoholic drinks such as Johnnie Walker whiskey. This selective restriction was likely meant to discourage local economic independence, ensuring that British imports continued to dominate the market. In 1949, King George VI implemented an education reform in the Gold Coast, introducing a three-tier system. First infant school, Class 1 to 3. Second junior school, Standard 1 to 3. Third senior school, Standard 4 to 7. At the end of Standard 7, students took the hall examination, which determined their academic future. Some interesting facts about Gold Coast schools under British rule. Students were not allowed to wear shoes. It was against school rules for students to wear footwear. Only teachers were allowed to do so. Boys wore khaki shorts with braces, while girls wore khaki frocks. Instead of exercise books, students wrote on wooden slates until Class 2. Pens were introduced only in Standard 1, and they had to use ink bottles and blotting papers. On British Empire Day, May 24th, students participated in marching drills while singing God Save the King. However, after King George VI's death in 1952, the anthem was changed to God Save the Queen, reflecting Queen Elizabeth II's ascension to the throne. By the late 1940s, King George VI's health began to decline. Years of stress, war, and heavy smoking took a toll on him. In 1949, he developed arterial blockage, and in 1951, doctors diagnosed him with lung cancer. On September 23, 1951, doctors removed his left lung, but the damage was already done. On the morning of February 6, 1952, King George VI was found dead in his bed. He had passed away due to coronary thrombosis, a heart attack, at the age of 56. His sudden death meant that his eldest daughter, Princess Elizabeth, became Queen Elizabeth II. His widow, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, remained an important figure in the royal family, but she adopted the new title to distinguish herself from her daughter. Despite being an accidental king, George VI proved to be one of Britain's most dedicated and hard-working monarchs. He strengthened the monarchy after his brother's abdication crisis. He stood by his people during World War II, refusing to flee London despite the bombings. He visited soldiers at the war front, inspiring morale. He helped transition the British Empire into the Commonwealth of Nations. His reign influenced education, governance, and local industries in the Gold Coast. Though King George VI was never meant to be king, he embraced his role with determination and humility, leaving behind a lasting legacy that shaped both Britain and its colonies, including the Gold Coast. Do you think King George VI was an underrated leader? What are your thoughts on how his reign impacted the Gold Coast and other colonies? Comment below, subscribe to Black Stories Untold, and let us know where you're watching from.